Hi guys, it's me ChazzaHD and welcome to another stream on the channel. Obviously, it's been a week since the last Grand Prix at Monza and we've just got done with a triple header of Spa, Zandvoort and Monza, which was not as good as it really could have been. It was a bit anticlimactic in a couple races and obviously qualifying sessions with penalties we had and all that stuff. So, yeah. Could have been definitely better, those races, and we continue, obviously, to absolutely whiz by the Formula 1 season of 2022. We've only got, 6 races to go? Singapore, Japan, USA, Mexico, Brazil, Abu Dhabi, and the season ends in, I think, 3 months and 2 days from now. So, yeah, not far away, the end of the season, as this season has absolutely flown by. Hope you're all doing well after the little break we've had since the Italian Grand Prix, and I hope you're all just doing well no matter what time it is in your part of the world, no matter what part of the world you're from, no matter what the circumstances you're going through. I hope you're all doing as well as you possibly can be. But yeah, in today's stream, what we're going to be getting into is really 3 topics. The first one is going to be which you can see via the title, has Sergio Perez been treated unfairly by Red Bull? The second topic is going to be looking at Red Bull versus Ferrari in terms of how they have developed their cars over the season and how the pace of the two cars has evolved and changed as the season has gone on. We'll get into that as the second topic. And the third topic, which is also part of the title, is how Silverstone circuit is ripping off its F1 loyal F1 fans who are trying to obviously get tickets for the British Grand Prix for 2023. Obviously, we don't know the exact date of the British Grand Prix, but we do know it is going to be on the calendar next year. So, we'll get into that as the third topic. And just to let you know that all 3 topics that I'm going to be doing tonight will be recorded, because they will be uploaded as separate videos for anyone who couldn't check out this stream, and they will be uploaded probably at least 2 of the 3 will be uploaded next week, and then if I upload the third and last one maybe the week after that, then that's when it will be uploaded. I may upload all 3 of the topics next week. I may, like I said, only upload 2 of them and then upload the third one the week after. We'll have to see, of course. But one thing I will say is I was planning to do a bit more topics tonight, because what I did plan was the 3 topics I'm going to do that I've just described, and then also let me just find it quick. I was also planning on talking about the news that we've had since the Italian Grand Prix. There's been quite a bit of news, but in setting this stream up, I just didn't have the time to prepare stuff for the news. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it for next weekend's stream. And just so you guys know, next weekend, next Sunday, basically at the same time I'm doing this, is when I'll be doing yet another stream, going through another topic or 2, plus I will go through the news we've had since the Italian Grand Prix. So just letting you guys know about that, and letting you know I guess what the content plan for the channel is in the next week or so. But yeah, obviously this stream I'm doing tonight, and then at least 2 recorded videos in the week next week that will come from this stream, and then next Sunday I'll do another stream where I've kind of already got most of the topics prepared for that stream for next Sunday. So I'll be doing another stream next Sunday. Make sure to come around for that stream. I don't know the exact time the stream will be taking place, probably 3 or 4 p.m. UK time, something like that. Obviously I'll confirm that once we get closer to next Sunday. And then the week after, probably upload another video from this stream that I'm going to do, or that I'm about to get into the topics. And then obviously the Singapore Grand Prix is the week after next, so we'll have plenty to go through in terms of that. And then the Japanese Grand Prix is the week after. So the reason I wanted to talk about this before I actually got on with the topics in hand is because I just want to let you guys know what the plan is for content. There is plenty of content coming your way, and obviously there hasn't been any content on the channel since Monday when I uploaded my Colton Herta video. By the way, make sure to go and check that out. I can't remember if it's in the description or not, but if it is, make sure to check it out. But yeah, there is plenty of content coming up on the channel. If you look really between now and the Japanese Grand Prix, there's going to be quite a lot of streams and a few recorded videos. That's basically what the plan is. So yeah, just letting you guys know that plan of content coming up in the next, 3 weeks, I think the Japanese Grand Prix is from now. So yeah, that's the content plan. And then after we get done with the Singapore and Japanese Grand Prix, there's only 4 races and about a month or so left of the season. Yeah, scary how quickly time is going by, especially for me. I mean, I am very busy at the minute, and just to let you guys know, I have had a bit of a busy week. I've done some work this week at my part-time job that I have. Obviously, this week there's no F1 races, so I'm a lot more available for that. But also, on Tuesday, I had my induction day at university. Just to let you guys know again, if you don't know, I'm attending university, but I'm not actually going to the actual university campus. So I'm not attending the actual campus. I'm attending a local college where I can do the work. So I'm not actually at the campus or anything like that. But yeah, I had my induction day on Tuesday, which was good. Settled a lot of nerves. I am still nervous as hell for next week when I actually start the course proper. And if you're wondering what course I'm doing, it's film media and photography, which pretty much what I do here on the channel. Moving images, and the media film side of of life, I guess you could say. That's basically what I do with this channel, isn't it? So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing for uni, and obviously be doing that for hopefully the next at least 3 years or so. But yeah, that's what I've been up to this week. Let me know in the chat if you want what you've been up to in the last week or so. And like I said before, I hope you've all had a good few days break since the last Grand Prix. But right, what we're going to do is we're going to get into the first topic in a minute, which is going to be the Sergio Perez topic. Has Sergio Perez been unfairly treated by Red Bull? What we're going to look at quickly is the accusations I've seen on Twitter, and not just in regards to this certain topic, but also it's kind of accusations that you normally get against a team in how they treat a, say, number 2 driver. I'll get into that, and then I'll get into looking at basically the actual evidence behind maybe they have been or they haven't been treating Perez unfairly at Red Bull. And then, I'll conclude, obviously, with my verdict. It's going to be a pretty simple little topic, to be honest. I think the topics coming up, probably the second one, the Red Bull versus Ferrari car development topic, will probably be a bit more in-depth than this one. But in the chat, guys, let me know, as I obviously go along, let me know what you think of what I'm having to say, but let me know, do you think Sergio Perez, I mean, we know, he's a number 2 driver, we know that, but has he been still unfairly treated by Red Bull in the position he is in? Let me know in the live chat, and I'll get onto your comments once I actually finish the topic. Let me just look through the let me just look through all of the stuff I've got here ready. Right, so I'm just going to quickly clear my throat, and then we'll get going. So just give me a second. And like I said, I'm going to be recording this topic and all the other topics I'm doing on this stream tonight. So please do bear that in mind as I go along. But let's get into it. So, guys, there has been accusations online that Sergio Perez, even though we know he is the second driver at Red Bull Racing, there's been accusations that Perez has not been treated exactly as fair as maybe he should be as a number 2 driver at Red Bull Racing. So what we're going to look at is the accusations to do with this, and also just look at, has he been treated unfairly, and kind of debunk, I guess you could say, the accusations when it comes to this topic. So let's get into the accusations first that I have seen mostly online, and that is common with how things work, say, with number 2 drivers at certain teams. Here are the accusations. So, not having the same parts as Verstappen and not running the same floor as Verstappen. We have heard a lot of this on, I think, Twitter in the last couple months or so, that Perez hasn't had the same parts as Max Verstappen. Now, in a moment, I will get into why that is, and a pretty reasonable explanation as to why Sergio Perez has not has not been running the same parts, but it is for a good reason rather than a nefarious reason or a bad reason. Also, the accusations not being allowed, always being allowed to race Max. There's been a couple times this season where Sergio has been told to not race Max or let Max through, which has caused some controversy. So we'll get into that as well. And also, being given strategies, it's supposed to say not as good as the number 1 driver, but yeah, we'll also look at whether there's any strategies in terms of the races he's had this season where his strategy has been compromised by having to support his teammate in some way, shape, or form. Now, let's start with the car parts and the running the same floor stuff. Let's start with that first. Now, in the early part of the season, here you can see this is where Sergio Perez won the Monaco Grand Prix brilliantly. At the start of the season, Perez was a lot closer to Max Verstappen than he is now. The reason that is because the car just wasn't suiting Max as much as it was, say, at this point of the season, and was suiting Checo quite a bit more than Verstappen. Now, the reason that is and the reason it's changed in terms of Perez falling away as he has, to the point where he is now losing a lot more pace to Verstappen than he was in the first, say, 6 or 7 races. This was explained by the Red Bull technical director. I know his first name is Pierre, but I cannot pronounce his final name because it's just too difficult for me. But let's get into his comments in regards to the way the car has evolved in terms of design, but also the the setup of the car and stuff like that. So this is what he had to say in terms of the car at times, suiting one driver over the other. He said, quote, "I think it's multiple factors, but the main factor is clearly the car balance. The confidence with the car compared to the beginning of the year when the car was a bit more balanced for him and a bit less for Max. That's why Sergio Perez was performing a bit better at that part of the season than he is now." And then he says, "The development we put on the car during the season seemed to have moved away from what was ideal for Perez," he suggested. And then he went on to say, quote, "Trying to find the right setup for him is quite difficult to get him as confident as he could be to beat or fight with Max." So basically, the reason that Perez has become, say, less confident or just slower, or a big reason, is because as they've developed the car, it's become more suiting for Max, and it has also become, I think, harder for Sergio to set up than it was at the start of the season. And as development of the car has evolved, it has, like I said, it's become just more difficult to find the absolute right setup. When at the start of the season, the Red Bull car didn't really change maybe as much as it has in the last, say, 2 or 3 months compared to the first month or two of the Formula One season. Now, Red Bull they did begin the year with a heavy car, as we know. They were, I think, 15 kilograms overweight at one point. I think that was at the very start of the season. And as the car has been lightened, it has affected the load points and influenced setup decisions. That's what Red Bull have said in regards to why maybe the car is, different in its in the way you need to set the car up compared to the start of the season. This is also what Pierre had to say, the technical director of Red Bull had to say on this topic. He said, quote, "The weight is an aspect for sure, but it's part of the setup of the car. At the beginning of the season, we didn't have the possibility to move the weight. I think it's everything together, and after you find your performance somewhere, and it's a little bit more tricky to set up the car, it went in favour of Max," he added. And then he said, quote, "I think he's able to drive any car. Now we have to find a way to give a car for Sergio to be performing and to compete, but it's a together aspect." So essentially what he is saying is, the car at the start of the season wasn't suiting as Max as much as it is now, but Max is such a great driver that he can work around that a lot more than Sergio can. When Sergio, and this is quite similar actually to Jenson Button, who was like this a bit when he was in F1, I think, in that the setup is much more important to their performance and their confidence than it is for a driver like Max Verstappen, who can seemingly drive around those issues a lot more, but also they have that just self-belief that they are the absolute best, and that they are gods essentially in their own minds, that they don't get too down on themselves when it comes to having the confidence in the car, because they're able to just, or the driver like Max is able to just drive around it. When for Checo, again, his confidence is a lot more dependent on what you call it, a lot more dependent on the actual setup of the car. And this Red Bull car that we'll go on to now, with this clip of Max driving it in pre-season, hasn't. And the reason it's not suited Max Verstappen, as I'm going to say now, as, say, last year's cars, the reason, and this is what Helmut Marko had to say, I will provide a link in the description, I think, for this exact quote. His aggressive style hasn't suited these 2022 cars as much because they have less downforce and you can't push the cars, maybe, especially on a qualifying lap, as hard as you could previously. So Max, these cars haven't been as suited for him anyway, never mind how the car was at the start of the season. So, Max has had his own issues, and the car has just, as it's got better, got more downforce, got lighter especially, it's become just more suited for Max's style than Checo's, rather than, the allegation, I guess you could say, that they were deliberately developing the car away from Perez. When, if they did do that, I don't think it would be actually still, massively bad. It would still be bad to a certain extent, but I don't think it's quite as, nefarious in the way they've developed this car as people would think. I think they have been just trying to improve the car, and it's just suited Max more so than Checo. Another thing to quickly let you guys know of, and I will post a link to this bit of information in the description of this video as well, of the video that is, coming out. What do you call it? So Red Bull are now running 2 different floors, which you may have heard of, I think, from the Belgian Grand Prix, and that was also a bit of I guess you could say, conspiracy theory from, I think, just before the summer break. Max is running a floor from earlier in the season that he has confidence in. Checo is running a floor design that hasn't delivered the step forward that Red Bull hoped. Basically, what happened was a new floor was trialled from Red Bull in Austria and France, but it didn't give the performance they were hoping for. So because of the cost cap limitations, because they can't just build and bring a new floor because of those limitations, they are running 2 different floors to, I think, pretty much collect data and work out how they can improve on or you'll find a way to just get around the issues with the floor and just get a full analysis of how the floor is performing. So again, it is for good reason why they are both running two different floor designs. It's not, again, for nefarious reasons. There is an absolutely fine reason when it comes to that. So in terms of the car parts and the and what do you call it, the different floor designs and stuff like that, I don't think there's anything wrong being done here. I think it makes absolute sense, to be honest. The car, in reflection, like I said, the car, as it's got better, more downforce and lighter, it's suited Max's style more, and the setup of the car isn't as important to Max as it is for Checo, and that's resulted in it suiting Max a bit more. We have to remember as well, Max was ahead of Perez in the championship anyway after, I think, the 8th race of the season in Baku, which was basically the end of Perez's very good start to the season. And also, yeah, they're running, two different floor designs, again, for good reason, because they can't bring a new floor to replace the one that hasn't worked as well. So they're running two different floors because that's the best, really, they can do there at Red Bull. But now, let's get into the, I guess, what would you call it? The accusation that Sergio, in a couple races this season, and this is towards the earlier part of the season, that he hasn't been allowed necessarily to race Max Verstappen as much as he would have wanted to, say, for victory of the Spanish Grand Prix, and arguably the Azerbaijan Grand Prix as well. Well, let's get into whether Checo and his fans, I guess you could say, have a fair criticism here. And on reflection, I don't think they do. So let's quickly get into the data. So in Spain, obviously, it was, I think, after Carlos Sainz had his spin at turn 4, it was Leclerc leading the race from Verstappen second, Russell third, Perez fourth, and then Verstappen had his spin, came up behind Perez, and then they decided, Red Bull, to pit Max before Perez and put him on a more aggressive strategy. And initially, the plan was for Max to be on a 3-stop and Perez to be on a 2-stop. In the end, Perez did go on to a 3-stop because his tyres were falling away quite bad compared to Verstappen. But in that second stint of the race, when I think Max overtook Perez the first time in quite easy circumstances, on average in that stint, Max was 1.5 seconds a lap quicker than Perez. So there was no reason to hold up Verstappen and hold up yourself as a team when one driver is that much quicker on average compared to the other driver. And then when Verstappen passed Perez for the second time, which I think is when Perez let him through at turn 4, you can see in that third stint, Max is 1.3 seconds quicker pretty much than Perez on average. And that's before, obviously, Perez's final pit stop. So, yeah, there's no real claim here that Perez, or legitimate claim, I guess you could say, that Perez deserved to be able to fight for the win. He was clearly slower, quite a bit slower than Max Verstappen. Verstappen was on a different strategy, and they had to let Verstappen through in the times they did to allow Verstappen's strategy to work, because they weren't just racing themselves, they were also racing George Russell in the Mercedes and trying to build a gap to him so they could get the 1-2 finish in Barcelona, which they did. And there was just, again, no reason to hold up Max Verstappen. So I don't see how you can legitimately claim that he was, screwed over, I guess you could say, with that Grand Prix and being able to fight for the win of that race. Then we have Baku, where so Sergio Perez got into the lead of the Grand Prix on the first lap, and then it was Leclerc second, Max third. Then the virtual safety car came up because Carlos Sainz broke down. Leclerc pitted, and then it was a Red Bull 1-2, and then Verstappen caught Perez quite quickly, overtook him, but whilst he was overtaking, Perez was told on the radio not to hold him up or not to race Max, and that did cause a bit of controversy at the time. Now, let me, again, explain why what Red Bull did was absolutely fine. Because if you look at, and this average lap time, this is not just the first stint, this is actually from when the virtual safety car period finished, right after Charles Leclerc pitted, up until Max's, I think, first pit stop, or Sergio's first pit stop, I think it was. I think it might have been Sergio's first pit stop. Perez was lapping almost a second per lap slower, and if you actually go look at the lap times yourself, his lap times from when the virtual safety car period finished until his final flying lap before he pitted, his pace dropped off by about 3 seconds or more per lap. His tyres had absolutely gone. That is why they told Perez not to fight Verstappen, because there was absolutely no reason to do so. And it was, again, going to hold the team up when at the time they were in what they thought was going to be quite a close race with Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari to win the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Obviously, in the end, Leclerc had an engine failure, and they ended up Red Bull with a comfortable 1-2 finish. So in the end, it didn't matter. But again, I just want to debunk that claim, I guess. And the final thing, obviously, I wanted to go through was the race strategies, and has Perez's strategies been in a race been compromised by having to help Max in some way, shape or form. Going back and looking at all the races this season, I could not find any strategies of Perez that were affected or that were done in a way to help Max purely rather than trying to help Sergio in the Grand Prix. Or in a Grand Prix in 2022. Obviously, in 2021, in a couple of occasions, we did have Sergio's strategy being affected to help Max. Obviously, in the final race in Abu Dhabi, where Perez was clearly on dead soft tyres, they kept him out to hold up Lewis Hamilton. We haven't seen any of that type of stuff in 2022. So there's nothing bad going on there. So on reflection, there's nothing that really Sergio Perez can complain about. Max Verstappen simply is obviously the much better driver, the clear number one of Red Bull, and there is nothing wrong with Red Bull completely building their team around this man, Max Verstappen, who could be, go on to be, one of the greatest drivers of all time, and is set to dominate Formula One, as I've said in a previous video. So, yeah, nothing wrong going on here. And to be honest, with Sergio Perez, he knows what he signed in terms of his contract when he joined the Red Bull team. He knew he was going to be in this position where even if the car was suiting him maybe a bit more at times than Verstappen, he was still going to have a very hard job to beat Verstappen, even in 2 or 3 consecutive races, which I don't think we've seen at all from Perez compared to Verstappen since he joined Red Bull. He always knew that he was going to have this difficulty, and looking at all the evidence of the accusations, I just don't think there is real evidence that Sergio Perez has been unfairly treated. He's been treated absolutely fine, and it's been great for Red Bull, and will be continuing to be great for the Red Bull team. But guys, let me know in the comment section down below, do you think Sergio Perez has been unfairly treated by Red Bull? Do you disagree or agree with what I'm having to say? And until my next video, guys, it has been me, ChazzaHD. Goodbye. And there you go, guys. That is the first topic done. And, yeah, let me know in the live chat, guys, what do you think of what I had to say? I'm just going to quickly delete all that stuff. All of the, clips and graphics I had. I'm just going to quickly delete all of that, so the stream runs a bit smoother. So just give me... actually, hold on. I'll delete that. I'll keep that. Let me just delete all this other stuff as well. Yeah, let me know in the chat, guys, what you thought of what I had to say about Sergio Perez there and his treatment from Red Bull. And let me just delete these two clips. There you go. Yes, let me know in the chat and I'll get onto your comments in a moment. Just want to say, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. I will be doing, like I said, a stream next Sunday covering some more topics in the world of Formula 1. And we'll be doing this, obviously, during the winter as well. And, obviously, I do race and qualifying watch-alongs for every Grand Prix in 2022, so make sure to subscribe for that. And, if you're watching right now, don't forget to smash that like button if you have not already. That would be fantastic. But I'm just going to quickly check Twitter to see if there's any news. Obviously, you never know. News could just break randomly. So, just having a look on Twitter. See if there is anything. Can't see anything at the moment. But, yeah, there has been a bit of news in the last few days. But like I said, I am going to get more so into that in what do you call it? I'm going to get more so into that in next Sunday's live stream. Because I want to wait till all the news pretty much for this, like, 3-week break has accumulated. And then go through the news. And there is quite a bit. I mean, one of the bits of news I am going to get into as my third topic, which is the Silverstone ticket fiasco. I will get into that as the third topic, but all the other stuff we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 little news topics. I think maybe 7 rather than 8 at the minute. So yeah. Let me read out what you guys have to say in the live chat. Good to see you all. Heavy Dude 74. This comment is from before the stream started. Remember that? He says Perez probably knew what he was getting into before signing. Same as Albon and Gasly performance. All about Max at Red Bull. Indeed. Hello, by the way, to A Bridges and to Rooks in the chat as well. Good to see you. Faith Thomas says, yes, they are treating Checo unfairly. They treat Max as if he's the golden child. Checo has earned the right to have respect. It all starts with the boss at Red Bull, Christian Horner. Well, that's your opinion. And by the way, good morning to Vladimir Rodriguez. Paul James Squibb says, do Red Bull see Checo as an expandable asset? How easily could he be replaced by a relatively equal team player with skills? I mean, yeah, there are other drivers out there that could fill his role. I don't think there's, like, many. I don't think there's an absolute ton of people that could fill his role and do it as well as him. But there are people out there that could do it. I mean, to be honest, if they put Pierre Gasly or Alex Albon in this Red Bull car now, they wouldn't be really performing that much worse than Perez, at least in qualifying. I think it's really in the race where Perez shows his quality as a team player, because I mean, we know that he's a lot better in the races than he is in qualifying, or is Perez. So yeah, I think that's really the difference between him, Gasly, and Albon. Is yes, Gasly and Albon in qualifying weren't actually, I mean, they weren't great at all, but they weren't, if you compare it to Perez and like the average time he's been slower than Max, it's not actually that much different when you compare the three in terms of the lap time lost to Max. But it's the race performances, I think, where Red Bull were lacking with Albon and Gasly. Wolf K says Perez should adapt his driving style to do better with Red Bull. He is, after all, a professional. Brackets, don't be a crybaby. Paul James Squibbs, do all teams develop their cars around who they consider their best driver to be? Do any teams split development with different cars? Or do all teams put all their effort and time in one direction? I mean, obviously, I mean, at this point of the season, obviously, they'll be working on maybe slight little upgrades if they can, you know, as long as it doesn't go over the cost cap limit, you know, the budget cap limit. they might be working Red Bull on certain little upgrades now. But teams normally start designing the following year's cars, and I'm trying to think when. It's probably like halfway through the year, or even before that. March or April of the year before, they're already designing the car for the next year. I mean, as long as they know how the cars are going to be, if it's not a new set of regulations, obviously the new set of regulations probably didn't help as well, the car not suiting Max maybe as much as it does now. But if they know what the cars are like in terms of how they work with certain regulations, they will, design their cars more so towards another driver than the other. Frank says Merc has done the same thing this year with development, different in that Red Bull is in the championship, and Merc has known they have much work to do. Perez not unfairly treated. Paul James Squibb says, I thought Mercedes were testing all their new developments on Hamilton's car. And then, Prank acts as they did, yes, but still using different parts on the two cars. Yeah, again, because of the new, cost cap, budget cap, whatever you want to call it, they can't just bring new parts all the time to try and fix whatever issues they have. So they have to, run different parts and stuff like that, mix and match, I guess you could call it as well. And that's just how it's having to work in regards to the development. In talking about development, we are about to get on to the next topic, which is Red Bull versus Ferrari in car development. And what we're going to be looking at is how the pace of the two cars and the comparison, how it's gone since the first race up until pretty much the last couple Grand Prix we've just had, the Dutch Grand Prix and the Italian Grand Prix. And we'll be getting into the pace differences at certain Grand Prix and how it's evolved, and the upgrades. I will show certain upgrades on screen, and also whilst I'm talking, I'll mention weight reduction upgrades and stuff like that. So we'll get into that in a second. And actually, I think we'll just head straight onto it, because I think I've read all the comments in the chat, I think. Let me just quickly check. Well, James Squibbs, do teams generally test new things on number 2 driver or car to see if they work before giving them to number 1? Yeah, that does happen. I remember when they used to do this at Ferrari, where I think there would be, was it 2 pre-season tests? I think this was back about 10 years ago when you had Alonso and Massa at Ferrari. What they would do is Felipe Massa and I think Pedro Della Rosa, who was the test driver at Ferrari at the time, a good friend obviously of Alonso, that's why he was a test driver, they would do the first pre-season test and Alonso wouldn't even turn up. But then Alonso would turn up for the second test in Barcelona. I think the first test back then used to be in Jerez, which used to be a F1 track back in the 70s, 80s, I think the 90s, obviously. That famous or infamous crash in 97 between Schumacher and Villeneuve. So that does tend to happen. And to be honest, it's not that bad of a strategy. And to be honest, one thing I did kind of forget to mention in that little topic I did is, if you're going, say if you have a front-running car that can win the championship, like 100%, it can definitely win the championship. It's just dependent on the results you get. The pace is definitely there. The best driver solution is to have a clear number 1 driver, because if you have 2 number 1 drivers, what's going to happen is those 2 drivers are going to start taking points away from the team and even themselves, and it's going to cost the team points in the end. But that's if you are competing against another team for the championship. If you're like Mercedes were with Hamilton and Rosberg, where there were no other teams that could possibly fight them, then if you have 2 number 1 drivers, then you can get away with it. But if you have 2 number one drivers and you've got another team to go up against, such as, McLaren in 2007 when they had to go up against Ferrari, who were kind of running two number ones in 2007. They didn't fully divert their support to Kimi Räikkönen, I think, until 4 or 5 races from the end of the season, because they knew at that point he was going to be their main contender. But there was a lot more competition, I guess you could say, at McLaren than there was at Ferrari, and obviously toxic competition. And I mean, it wasn't one of the main reasons why McLaren or that Lewis Hamilton lost the championship that season, or Fernando Alonso, but it was definitely a factor. They concentrated on themselves so much that Kimi Räikkönen obviously ended up swooping in and winning his first and only world championship. The last driver's world champion for Ferrari 15 years ago. I think actually in a month from now, maybe a month and 2 days, I think it might be, will be the 15-year anniversary of Kimi Räikkönen's championship win in Brazil. So, yeah, just to let you guys know about that. I think that anniversary might be on the Friday practice day of the United States Grand Prix, possibly. We'll have to see. But, yeah, it's been that long since they last had a driver's title, and obviously the last constructor's title a year later in 2008, which is 14 years ago. Soon become 15 years since their last constructor's championship. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get into this next topic, which again, it is Red Bull versus Ferrari and how the pace of the two teams has evolved as season went on. And what we're going to look at is we're going to go in race batches, if you know what I mean. We're going to look at firstly the first 5 races and how the pace difference, or what the pace difference was between the two cars and how it evolved. Then look at the next few races after that, say from Spain until Austria, and then look at from Austria until after that, until till now basically, and how the pace has evolved and the upgrades and the differences between the cars and all of that. That's what we're going to get into in just a moment. And again, I'm going to be recording this topic just to want to let you guys know that make sure to, as I'm talking about this topic, make sure to comment in the chat what you think of what I'm having to say. And whether you agree, disagree, just let me know in the chat and I'll get to your comments once I'm done with the topic. And then after that, we'll get on to probably the most controversial part of the stream, which is going to be the Silverstone ticket fiasco, which I really want to get into because I don't see anyone else in terms of F1 YouTuber at the minute covering it on this website. So I really want to cover it because it needs, light needs to be shone on this issue. The Silverstone ticket thing, it has to be shone on this issue because they cannot get away, Silverstone, with what they're doing, but we'll leave that until after. But let's get into this next topic. So I'll start recording in just a second. So what we're going to do here, guys, is look at the car development between the two teams, Red Bull and Ferrari, and how it's evolved over the season and the difference in pace between the two cars. And yeah, the two cars, obviously, we're looking at this Ferrari car of 2022 and the 2022 Red Bull. Now, the Red Bull car, its strengths are, it's a comfortable car to drive. It's not the best car aerodynamically or even maybe chassis-wise on the grid, but it is a comfortable car to drive, doesn't porpoise as much as other cars, but does have, with its design philosophy, very good straight line speed, the best straight line speed from the entire field. When Ferrari's car is a lot more aerocentric, it's a bit draggier than the Red Bull car, and at tracks with more corners, especially slow and medium speed corners, the Ferrari car goes well. But let's get into firstly the first Grand Prix of the season and just the difference in pace between the two teams at the first Grand Prix. So Red Bull were a tenth of a second slower in qualifying than Ferrari were, and Ferrari in the race up until the safety car came out, which I think was lap what was it, lap 40-ish, I think it came out, the safety car. Let me just check, actually, when it came out. Actually, I can't remember when it came out. I think I've got the other laps here, all the other comparisons I'm going to do. But this is the pace on average between the two teams up until that safety car came out in the latter part of the Grand Prix. Ferrari were only 0.08 of a second quicker on average in the Grand Prix. So even though that might not sound a lot, when you consider at the point now where we know Red Bull have a much better car at lower downforce, higher speed tracks, which the Bahrain circuit is, it's clear to see that at the start of the season, Ferrari had the better car, because if, say, the two cars ran now at that track, Red Bull would pretty clearly win that Grand Prix by at least a few seconds. Of course, if they didn't have the reliability issues they had in Bahrain. But it wasn't just the story with Bahrain. It was really the story of just the start of the season. In testing, Ferrari, we knew, were pretty much the best team on the grid. Red Bull did improve their pace quite a bit with a new sidepod design at the end of pre-season testing. But from what we saw in Bahrain, Ferrari were on pace better than Red Bull. And even in Saudi Arabia, where obviously Red Bull won, they only won just from Ferrari, who was still pretty fast, and Red Bull did have to rely on their great straight line speed compared to Ferrari to be able to just about overtake Charles Leclerc for the victory and win that Grand Prix. Then we started getting some upgrades at the Australian Grand Prix from both of these teams. Here you can see with Red Bull, they brought a new front wing end plate to the Australian Grand Prix. You can see the old there on the left-hand side and the new on the right-hand side. I'm pretty sure you will be able to see the clear differences in design here. Sorry, in design here. And what this was to do was not just to improve the grip of the car, but also to cut some weight, which was a big problem for Red Bull at the start of the season, as we know. Ferrari, at the same time, were bringing new upgrades. This was a new diffuser design that they brought to the Australian Grand Prix as well, and you can just see here really just what the whole area looks like. And even though Red Bull were starting to cut some weight off the car, and they were rumoured to be as much as 15 kilograms overweight at the start of the season compared to the weight limit for the new 2022 cars. Even though they were trying to, and they were getting on with the job of cutting that weight, they were still lacking a bit of speed compared to the Ferrari team, because in Melbourne, Ferrari did show quite a bit of superiority to the Red Bull team. So in qualifying, Ferrari were pretty much 0.3 of a second quicker. And then on average in the race, up until Max Verstappen's retirement, they were 1/4 of a second per lap quicker than Red Bull. Now, obviously the final sector at the Melbourne track is, it's going to suit the Ferrari car a lot because there's lots of corners, and even the first sector to a certain extent will suit the Ferrari car, but that track has become a lot more high speed, and it was thought at the time that Red Bull would be a bit more competitive than they actually were, but in the end, they just were not. And this Grand Prix, I think, is the clearest indication that Ferrari were just so much quicker than the Red Bull team, because Charles Leclerc would win the Grand Prix by, I think, a pit stops gap over Sergio Perez, who finished in second. Leclerc was now leading the championship by, I think, compared to Verstappen, by 46 or 47 points. And it was looking so good for Ferrari. And there was no doubt Ferrari had the best car on the grid. No real doubt about it. But then we got to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, the race after. Here's an upgrade Red Bull brought to the splitter area of their car, a new winglet. But also at this Grand Prix at Imola, they started to significantly cut that weight at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, where they did get a 1-2 finish and were quicker than Ferrari in the race. They were able this weekend to cut, I think, 5 to 7 kilograms of weight off the car. And by the time we got to the Spanish Grand Prix, which we'll get into in a moment, they were pretty much, maybe not the same as Ferrari in terms of weight, but they were about where they wanted to be in terms of their weight and weren't too far away from where Ferrari were with the weight of their car. But once we got to the final Grand Prix before the proper European season started, obviously the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in Italy, but then we went back to America for the Miami Grand Prix. This was the pace difference now at the Miami Grand Prix between the two teams. Red Bull were 0.2 of a second slower in qualifying compared to Ferrari. Max did make a mistake, though, in his final run of Q3, so we don't quite know what he would have done with that final lap in qualifying. But then, on average, Red Bull were just over 0.1 of a second quicker than Ferrari in the race, and that is based on the lap times up until that final safety car of the Miami Grand Prix. And this is something we weren't seeing really up until this point, and even the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, where Red Bull were quicker and able to be quicker in the actual race itself compared to Ferrari. And they were also looking after their tyres a lot better. Ferrari was starting to struggle a bit more compared to that, or compared to Red Bull in looking after tyres. And it was definitely starting to swing more so in Red Bull's direction in terms of the them improving their car a lot more than Ferrari and closing that gap, and now starting to get at least on equal terms with the Ferrari team, as Max Verstappen won, obviously, the Miami Grand Prix. But now let's get into at the Spanish Grand Prix, obviously a very important circuit for aerodynamics. Let's get into what the pace difference was at that Grand Prix, where we saw some upgrades there. So in qualifying, Red Bull were 0.3 of a second slower than Ferrari in qualifying, and on average during the race, up until Charles Leclerc's retirement, Leclerc was 0.2 of a second quicker than Verstappen on average up until his retirement. I know obviously Verstappen made a mistake, and then he was held up for quite a while behind, I think, his teammate and George Russell in the Mercedes, but there is no doubt about it, Ferrari were quite a bit quicker than Red Bull in Spain. And now we were coming to, say, more aero-heavy circuits in terms of the reliance more so being on aero, such as Spain, Monaco, Baku, I guess you could say to a certain extent. I know you have the very long straights there, but obviously the middle sector, they're very, very important in getting good lap time out of that track. We were starting to see Ferrari really showing just how good their car is when it comes to absolute pure downforce. And even though Red Bull's car was still improving and getting more some equal terms with Ferrari, it's a bit difficult to look at this time period in terms of Red Bull versus Ferrari, because in Spain, obviously, Leclerc retired from the race. Then in Monaco, it was a wet and then dry Grand Prix. We can't really compare the pace between the two different teams that much there. I mean, in qualifying, Ferrari were quite a bit quicker than Red Bull. Not really a surprise because of the type of track that Monaco is. Then, of course, in Baku, Leclerc and Sainz had a double engine failure. And then at Silverstone, Max Verstappen had a problem with debris getting in or damaging his floor, I think, of his car, which caused him to go a lot slower in the final 80% of that Grand Prix at Silverstone. And even in Canada, it was a bit skewed in terms of we had Leclerc starting at the very back, and then Verstappen and Sainz were fighting at the front for the win, but they were constantly, because I think there was an early virtual safety car, or safety car, I can't remember exactly. They were constantly, Verstappen and Sainz, varying on their strategies. One driver would be on fresher tyres, and suddenly the other driver would be on fresher tyres. It was never the same. So it's pretty difficult, like I said, to look at the pace difference between the two cars during this period because of all those variables that were happening at the time. I just want to show this as well. This was a rear wing mirror update that Ferrari did bring, I think, at the British Grand Prix. So Ferrari were still bringing upgrades, but Ferrari's strategy in 2022 has been really just to maximize what they have rather than slapping loads of upgrades or as many upgrades as they can on the car. Well, we'll get onto, though, why that strategy maybe hasn't worked out so much, but also an upgrade they did bring to the French Grand Prix and how that did actually affect their pace in, say, the races closest to us in this 2022 Formula 1 season. But what we will do is compare the Red Bull and Ferrari teams and the pace they had compared to each other for the Austrian Grand Prix. The Austrian Grand Prix, obviously, is a power circuit, and you'd think that Red Bull would have dominated that Grand Prix, how they've gone as of late at those type of circuits, and also how they've gone most of the season at higher speed circuits. But in qualifying, Red Bull were only a couple hundredths of a second quicker in the Friday qualifying we had that week, and obviously we had the sprint race on the Saturday. But in the race itself, Ferrari, on average, were a tenth of a second quicker than Red Bull in the race. Obviously, lots of times during that Grand Prix, Ferrari were on either older and then fresher tyres. So when they were on fresher tyres, Ferrari were gaining quite a bit more than a tenth of a second on Red Bull on average during the Grand Prix. But Ferrari were definitely faster in that Austrian Grand Prix. There is no doubt about that. And the reason that is because Red Bull, as I've got into in a previous video, they brought a floor design, I think, to the Austrian Grand Prix that, put it this way, hasn't quite lived up to the expectations maybe that Red Bull had. So here is the floor design that Red Bull brought, and I'm going to try and quickly find a good explanation as to the differences with the floor here compared to the one that Max Verstappen is running, because they have now started to run different types of floors, have Red Bull, with the two drivers, which has caused a slight controversy on social media. So in regards to the floors, not all the updates have worked at Red Bull. Perez has the new bottom for the floor, but the innermost diverter is not cut like in Austria. So yeah, this floor design just not working as much as they were hoping for, and that's a big reason. And also not getting the setup maybe as right as they could have in Austria was a reason why in Austria they weren't as quick as they were hoping to be, and as they probably should be at that circuit. By the way, that information I just read out is from @Smilex Tech on Twitter, who's an engineer, F1 technical analyst. Make sure to go check him out on Twitter, especially if you are Italian. But yeah, this floor just wasn't giving Red Bull the pace that they really needed, and they would eventually go with a different type of strategy, which was running Max with a older floor that he's more confident in terms of its handling, and then running with Sergio Perez, the newer one, rather than bringing a completely new floor. And the reason they had to do this was because obviously the cost cap limitations, and they can't just bring a new floor to solve all of these issues like they could previously. But also Ferrari were having new floor upgrades around this time, and on reflection, their floor upgrades haven't actually worked as much as they were really hoping. So you can see here, this is, by the way, from Albert Fabrega, a very good person or analyst on Twitter. Make sure to go check him out, and him looking at the new design. So on the top here is Paul Ricard, and on the bottom is I think the older one. And if I just scroll back up, you can see differences in the shape of that particular part of the car. But if I go to the second picture, you can see say a better indication to the differences. So again, here on the top, this is the Paul Ricard upgrade, and then you can see again, if I scroll down to the bottom, the differences in the shape of that part of car. And that is essentially the upgrade that Ferrari brought to the French Grand Prix. But since then, it hasn't worked for them. Hasn't delivered the type of pace they were hoping for. Hasn't delivered really any significant pace at all compared to what they had before this upgrade. But also, they've noticed that they are wearing their tyres out quite a bit more than they were, say, beforehand. That's one reason. Another reason why they were so good in Austria compared to Red Bull is that they were looking after their tyres quite a bit better than Red Bull were. And if we go to this comparison at the Dutch Grand Prix, which is quite an aero-heavy circuit, you can see how this new floor for Ferrari just wasn't working for them. So Red Bull were a couple hundredths per second quicker in qualifying compared to Ferrari. That wasn't necessarily down to the car, more so Charles Leclerc not putting together the best final lap in qualifying that day. But in the race, on average, up until the safety car that came out, I think, on lap 55, Red Bull were 0.3 of a second on average quicker than Ferrari. That is something we have not seen at all this season. At an aero-heavy circuit, Red Bull be that much quicker on average compared to the Ferrari team. For example, if I go back to the Spanish Grand Prix comparison, Red Bull were a couple tenths of a second slower on average compared to Ferrari. Or if I go to the Australian Grand Prix early in the season, again, a couple tenths of a second advantage. Normally, at this circuit, or at these type of circuits where aero is a bit more important, Ferrari do have the type of advantage that Red Bull had over them in the race. And it wasn't necessarily purely down to the Red Bull car having more grip. It was the tyres getting worn out quite a bit on the Ferrari car with this new floor compared to what they had previously. Now, Ferrari are starting to test their old floor designs and just work out really why this lack of pace in the race has suddenly hit them. We'll see whether they can work on some improvements when it comes to this. But when looking at this whole situation and the development between the two teams, I think one thing we can absolutely say is that Red Bull have developed quite a bit better than Ferrari this season. Red Bull have had, slight hiccups. Like I said, that floor they brought or trialled in Austria and France didn't quite work out for them. But at the start of the season, Ferrari were a bit quicker than Red Bull on average. I don't think there's really any doubt about that. And then progressively over the season, Red Bull have improved the aerodynamics of the car and most importantly, cut the weight off the car, which is the biggest reason why Red Bull are in a position they are in now. And Ferrari, if you look at their upgrades this season, maybe at the start of the season they improved the car by maybe a tenth or two here or there. But really, since the European season began, Ferrari's car hasn't really, in terms of pace, got any better and hasn't improved with developments to the car. It's pretty much the same car, pace-wise, that we have seen since, say, the Spanish Grand Prix. It hasn't really evolved like, say, the Red Bull has in certain circumstances. And actually, with this new floor design, has actually got worse, which, of course, is not good at all for the Ferrari team. Obviously, there might be some upgrades coming, I think, at the Singapore Grand Prix, which is coming up very, very soon. That Ferrari are rumoured to maybe be bringing a final upgrade to try and get another win or two before the season is over. We'll see if they can get that. But once again, Ferrari in a championship battle have been outdone on development compared to their rival. This used to happen, of course, with Mercedes back in 2017 and 2018. And even, you can say 2019 as well, even though there wasn't a proper title fight that season, Mercedes did upgrade their car for at least the first half of the season better than Ferrari did. But, looking at this season, Red Bull their car has progressively 90% of the time got better, when Ferrari, first 5 or 6 races, maybe the car was slightly getting better, but then just hit a brick wall, as it normally does with this team in terms of development. And that is why Red Bull are going to win the championship this season, and why this man is going to win the driver's title as well. Let me know, guys, in the comments section, how do you think the development between these two teams has gone over the course of 2022? And just let me know your general thoughts as to the topic of this video. But guys, till my next video, has been me, ChazzaHD. Goodbye. And there you go, guys. That is that topic done. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly delete all of those clips and graphics and stuff. So again, the stream can run a bit smoother. So just give me a couple minutes. But let me know, guys, right now in the live chat, what did you think of what I had to say? And what do you think of how the development race has gone this season? Let me know in the live chat, and I'll get to your comments soon enough. Again, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. And if you are watching right now and you have not hit the like button, make sure you smash it. Obviously help the channel grow. There is quite a bit of stuff here to get rid of, so do give me just a minute or two to get rid of all this stuff. And then the final topic reminder will be the Silverstone one. Probably the spiciest thing we'll be getting into. And there's also a couple bookmarked tweets that I need to make sure to get ready that I've got for this topic as well. Let me just get all these out of the way. And there you go. So, again, let me know in the chat, guys, what you thought of that topic. And let's see what you guys have to say in the chat. Eric says, I think Checo is a good driver, but not on the same level as Max. At the beginning, Max won every race he finished before Monaco, while Checo failed to get on the podium twice. It's okay to prioritise Max. Paul James Squibbs says, I'm off the ball by thinking Mercedes will be fighting Red Bull for the championship next year, and Ferrari fighting to stay in third. I think maybe not with Ferrari. Maybe they won't be fighting to stay in third, but I don't see Ferrari at all winning the championship. I don't even think there'll be I think there'll be a title race next year between Red Bull and Mercedes, but Ferrari are not going to be in it at all. And Mercedes are, in my view, our only hope of a title race in 2023. If Mercedes are as slow next season as they are now, then Max Verstappen wins the championship, 100% guaranteed. So, yeah. Mercedes are, like I said, our only hope. Ferrari will, I think, probably next season be third. Obviously, I will get onto my predictions for next year. I am probably going to do, at the end of this year, say right before Christmas, my early 2023 predictions, and we'll see just how right or wrong they are. But yeah, I just don't think they'll really go forward with this car. Paul Silas says Charles will never win a championship with Ferrari. Yeah, I agree with that. Not necessarily because Leclerc's bad, but Ferrari will just never get their act together. Paul James Squibbs, do drivers tend to get short-term contracts, 1 or 2 years, or are there any drivers on long-term contracts? How many years is Max's at Red Bull? Max is contracted to be at Red Bull until the end of 2028. Yes, that long. You got Norris is contracted at McLaren to the end of 2025. Leclerc's contracted until the end of 2024, and I think that's it in terms of the longer term contracts that were signed. Leclerc signed that 2024 contract in 2019, So yeah, quite a long-term contract there. Simon says Ferrari put much effort into making their fast car reliable this season, whereas Red Bull have actually improved their car. True. Right, I just need to find the bookmarks. I've got these bookmarked tweets I need to get ready for this topic. Let me just find how to get it up. Right. So I'll get this one up quick. Let me find that. There you go. Let me just do one more, and then we'll get on to, guys, the Silverstone topic. Let me just find the tweets I need to get ready. I mean, I've got a few screenshots as well, but yeah, just want to get those ready. If you guys prank asked, Fernando got a 3-year deal with Aston Martin, right? It's 2 years and then an option for a third, which, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess you could maybe argue it's a 3-year contract, but, you know, it's, I guess, pretty much a 2-year contract. I'm not sure how it works, to be honest. Rooksfoot says Stroll's contract like to be lengthy. Yeah. Probably a, 20, 25-year contract for Lance. But I think we'll just go straight into the Silverstone topic because, yeah, I've got a few screenshots to go through. And this is going to be a bit of a ranty topic. So let me know, guys, in the chat what you think of this whole fiasco. I don't expect you all know or all to know what's gone on here because obviously I don't think a lot of you maybe pay attention to social media as much as I do because I have to because it's part of my job. But let me know what you think of what I show on screen because I'll be very curious to hear what you guys have to say. I know I do have quite a bit of obviously fans from the UK. Yeah, let me know in the chat. But I think we'll just get on to this recording. So guys, there has been quite a bit of controversy regarding ticket sales for the 2023 British Grand Prix at Silverstone, and yeah, that is what we're going to get into in this video and get into the absolute ripping off of diehard loyal F1 fans and British F1 fans that has gone on here. Now, quickly, I'll play this clip on screen. This is a guy, I think his channel is Mike Edwards. I'm just going to show this as a filler, basically, so you guys can look at the Silverstone track. So, the 2023 F1 calendar has not been officially confirmed yet, but we do know that the British Grand Prix is going to be on the calendar in 2023. So, the ticket sales are already taking place. And Silverstone have absolutely, they've handled it in such an absolutely horrible way, not just in terms of the website, you know, crashing, but also the actual ticket prices and the whole system really has been handled just so horribly. So let's get into how this situation all played out. And we'll start with this tweet from David Croft, obviously the main Sky Sports F1 commentator. This was his tweet on September 15th, which was a Thursday. I think Thursday, September the 15th this was. And he tweeted, after receiving a few tweets about your struggles to buy tickets for the 2023 British Grand Prix, he said, because obviously the September the 15th is when I think the tickets went on sale and there were people queuing virtually to get those tickets. He said he spoke to Silverstone at Silverstone UK, and they told him 210,000 people registered to be able to buy tickets, and currently, obviously he means at the time, there are 25,000 in the queue, hence the delays. The payment issue has been fixed. But then, about an hour, maybe an hour and a half later, Silverstone published this statement. They and this issue, by the way, in terms of being able to continue on the website selling tickets, I don't think was resolved until the day after, or maybe the day after that on the Saturday. Can't remember exactly. But they said, we've decided to suspend the 2023 Formula One British Grand Prix ticket sale, as we're acutely aware a lot of fans have experienced intermittent issues in securing their tickets due to ongoing issues with the ticketing, or our ticketing provider, their obviously ticketing provider, Circuitix, something like that. We feel the fairest thing for us to do is to temporarily pause sales and freeze all ticket prices until these are resolved. And yeah, they said they plan to be back on sale at 11:30 a.m. the following day, and reassure the fans that they still have good availability across all ticket types. Please watch our social channels, keep an eye on all our emails. And then once again, they sincerely apologise. But this was not really the main frustration, put it that way, with Silverstone in regards to the tickets. I mean, obviously people were complaining about the website crashing and not even knowing if their purchase has gone through for tickets. But the system, put it this way, that they were using to charge the fans in terms of the price was quite bad. Let's get into that now. So it was notified to the actual people, and I'll show this on screen, this quick little screenshot of the prices there. What they were doing is, and they let people know in advance, so it's not like they just surprise people with this, which is, I guess, is good. What they did was every 90 seconds they would update the prices of the tickets, obviously for certain areas, and mainly obviously the grandstand areas were the ones that were being sought after with the people queuing. This is a screenshot, I think took like 20 minutes apart. So the top one is what the price was originally for the National Pit Straight, which I believe, I think we're going to go onto a track map of the prices in a minute. I believe the National Pit Straight is, it's either the new Pit Straight or it's the old one. I can't remember exactly, the name of each grandstand and where it exactly is. But you can see on the top there, the price was £349. And then 20 minutes or 30 minutes later, it's now £510 or £509, but pretty much 510. That's an increase of, what, 160 quid in quite a short amount of time. And let me see if I can find another screenshot here. And yeah, I can here from someone else. So this is from, what's it, Cops A, which I think is a grandstand. And you can see there the ticket, 349 quid. Oh, I remember this grandstand, or this screenshot now. So this is a screenshot of the ticket prices for these grandstands before they increased. And I think the difference in the screenshots is like a 10-15 minute difference. So for Cops A, 350 quid basically. For Cops B, 330 quid basically. And for Cops C, 310 quid. But then if we go on to the updated one, this was, I think, a 10-15 minute difference. They were now, Cops A was up to 370 quid, Cops B was up to 370 quid, and then Cops C, which was 310, was now 350 quid. And the reason they were doing this, because they were using a system called dynamic pricing. I'll quickly read out the dictionary of dynamic pricing, or the absolute definition of it. It is the practice of varying the price for a product or service to reflect changing market conditions. In particular, the charging of a higher price at a time of greater demand, which is essentially what the Miami Grand Prix organizers did when they were charging like $500 more for certain tickets for certain grandstands or general admission than you would normally charge for those areas. And that was the excuse that the organizer or the promoter of the Miami Grand Prix gave for the ticket prices, is because of demand. So basically, because of the demand, they're just hiking the prices because of that, which, I'm sorry, I don't agree with at all. Dynamic pricing is not a good system at all. It just isn't. And if we go on to this map, this is the map of all the ticket prices for all of the different bits around the track that someone created. I don't know who exactly created this, but credit to whoever it was, because it is a great little thing here. So if we start from they call it the Hamilton Straight here. Bear in mind, we're in a cost of living crisis, especially if you're in the UK. You'll know exactly all about that. The Hamilton Straight, you're paying between, what, 440 quid and 540 pounds. That's, yeah, a lot of money. That's a ridiculous amount of money. And then you've got, 630 quid here, I think, for like turn one and that. Then you've got for the Wellington Straight, again, the prices are just absolutely extortionate. You've got the here, the general admission plus Luffield Terrace, £260. By the way, I'm not sure if this is just for race day. I assume it is just for race day, these tickets. General admission plus Luffield Terrace for 260 quid is so much more than it should be. It's ridiculous. The difference in ticket prices compared how it used to be even 3 or 4 years ago is just ridiculous. I mean, I saw someone online on Twitter saying that when they bought a general admission ticket for the 2018 British Grand Prix for the whole weekend, I think, it was only 100 quid, but now it's at least 250. Now, I know you may say, inflation. I don't think inflation can explain purely the ticket, prices for all of these seats being quite a bit higher than maybe it was last year. Obviously, I don't know what the prices were last year. You can see for all these grandstands, you're paying anywhere between 330 or pretty much £400. And then for the club area, Chapel, Beckett's, you're paying between basically £400 and £630. And then at Stowe, you're paying £330. Just way, way too much money to be paying, let's be honest, for to attend an F1 race. When we've already talked about these issues, before, and I did actually talk about this in my Miami Grand Prix video that I did about how the event, I don't think, was run in the best way possible, and I did get into the ticket prices of the Miami Grand Prix event and how we can't grow Formula One and include people from poorer backgrounds, especially people from different racial minorities who have poorer socioeconomic backgrounds or issues, whatever you want to call it. We can't include those people if the ticket prices are going sky high, not just because of inflation, but because of this dynamic pricing stuff. Yeah, that's the map there. And then David Croft did have this to say, which I do need to read out because I thought this was a bit of a funny tweet. He said, on the subject of dynamic pricing, understandably not popular with fans and himself, every penny of profit made at the British Grand Prix is ploughed back into the circuit, and this pricing structure isn't new. Just this year, tickets are selling and prices rising faster. Now, they do put money back into the circuit, but they don't put as much money into the circuit as you'd think. The money they put in, or when I say that, I mean like the whole circuit rather than certain parts of the circuit. Because what they've done is They have upgraded in the last, say, 10 years or so. Obviously, the pit building that they built, the new one for the new pit straight. I think the paddock area and all of that stuff is been upgraded in the last few years or so. Obviously, that part of the track is all new compared to the rest of the track, which is pretty much still from the older days of the Silverstone track. But I have actually been to Silverstone. I went to the 6 hours of Silverstone World Endurance Championship race, and in the spectator areas, I mean, the grandstands are absolutely fine in terms of quality, but for a general admission, if you've got a general admission ticket, I honestly would expect a better facilities for the actual fans who have general admission tickets than you have at the minute. A lot of the time people are walking on just gravel, around the circuit. The walkways, they're not state of the art. I've heard complaints about the toilets at Silverstone, especially the disabled ones. So they may be putting, every penny of profit back into the circuit, but it's only for, say, the richer or the VIP people who come to the Grand Prix around the pit building area, rather than the actual area for the, for the actual fans itself, which I don't think has really improved that much in the last 10 years or so. But I do want to get on to a couple little tweets here that I have bookmarked. So let me just quickly get those up on screen quickly. So this is one from Jordan F1. You may know him from Twitter. Infamous Lewis Hamilton fan, I guess you could call him. This is from September the 14th, where he does this tweet. Silverstone have emailed back and claimed prices have only raised by 5 to 7% in line with inflation. On the left of these pictures I'll get into is Club B last year. Right is the current price on the website. It appears their calculator is broken because that's an increase of 20%. That isn't just inflation. This tweet was done, but I think before the tickets went officially on sale for the that we saw for the queue on September 15th. So let's get into this now. So, what do you call it? He says, last year, this is the price for the 2 tickets at Club Corner. You can see there, obviously, quantity 2, £730 in price. But now for this year, £440. So that is quite a big increase, because if you were to buy obviously 2 of those tickets, now you're, instead of spending, what was it you spent, 730, I think it was, for the 2 Club Corner grandstand tickets, I think. Instead of 730, now it's 150 quid more expensive if you were to buy 2 tickets like he did last year. So that is just, again, that is a complete lie if anyone is trying to claim that, especially Silverstone, that it is been done in line with inflation, because like he said, it's an increase of 20%, and that is just not right. But also, one thing I do want to quickly show on screen is this. So they tweeted this out on September 16th, the morning after, saying that they plan to reopen the ticket sales at 11:30 a.m. today, which was on Friday the 16th of September. I just wanted to get into the replies to this tweet, because you can just see the amount of people complaining about this. This guy, this is a joke, right? When I got into the queue to buy tickets for the Hamilton Straight, it was £499. In the hour and 20 minutes I've been waiting, you have raised the prices to over £600. Absolute fucking joke. Let's find some others here. This person says it's now 313 quid, got up 100 quid from Tuesday. Don't know why they can't just stick to a price. The general admission price has been going up as well. Technical errors you can see here. Let's see if I can find some other ones here. So yeah, this person saying, yeah, so yesterday, general admission, £179, now £250. It's probably even more now if you look on the website. And they were still in the queue at the time. Let's find some other tweets here. If I can. I think there's 1,000 replies to this, and there's only like 1,100 likes. You can just keep every reply you can see. People either can't, the website's crashing and they can't just get through cleanly, or them complaining about the ticket price increases. And yeah, so many people complaining here. And you can see this person here. It's like, F1 fans helped you out during the pandemic, as we all heard. It's without fans, Silverstone couldn't survive. Now you repay us by increasing prices £70 in 4 hours. Do you know what? Let Silverstone go to the wall, and maybe the next British Grand Prix venue will look after its fans. Yeah. Again, in a cost of living crisis, it is absolutely disgusting. Here's another one. Silverstone UK have been waiting in the queue close to 3 hours, expecting it to be at least 5 hours. Now seeing tickets for general admission Sunday that were £179 when I started at 11:30, now £219. So sad to tell my 11-year-old avid F1 fan that we can't support the home Grand Prix. What time was this tweet done? Yeah, look at that, 1:30 p.m. So, what, 2 hour difference, and it's already gone up like, what, 40, 50 quid? This person says they were 239 when I got them at 12:30. Again, it is just so poor from them. Let me just go back to this. Yeah, what Silverstone is doing, and again, I'll probably link the Miami Grand Prix video where I got into the ticket price fiasco kind of there, with the ticket prices being way too expensive there. This is just so poor from Silverstone on so many levels. Again, we're having a cost of living crisis. Money is hard to come by, much harder to come by at the minute, for obvious reasons. This is just not on. It is absolutely not on. But the reason I think they are absolute scumbags for doing this is because they know people are desperate to come to Silverstone to watch the British Grand Prix next year, or any British Grand Prix. So they're preying on that, and they know they can get away with it. They know they can get away with this dynamic pricing shit, because they'll get probably still, for the whole weekend, 200,000 to 400,000 people turning up over the course of the weekend. So, again, it's just such a poor display from Silverstone that they've put out here. And also, in regards to Formula One, again, we're supposed to be on this whole equality and diversity drive, but also including people from poorer backgrounds, especially racial minorities that normally have poorer socioeconomic status. We're supposed to be including them more, but now ticket prices for Grand Prix are going sky high, not just because of inflation, but because of this, supply and demand, which I understand. If there is a demand, that, you have to charge fans at a certain expense, you don't want to not be making a profit, because you want to be able to, operate as a business. I completely understand that, but at the end of the day, there has to be some sort of effort from Liberty Media or Formula One. If they actually care about including, racial minorities from poorer backgrounds, especially, if they actually care about those people being able to attend Grand Prix and getting involved in Formula One, then they have to consult the promoters and the people running these tracks and running the events itself, because this is just a recipe for disaster. In my honest opinion, I don't think Formula One gives a fuck about poorer people or even racial minorities. I don't think they care at all. The reason they don't care is because they with the prices going up as they are, Pretty much the only people they care about attending their races is famous people to expose the sport to a bigger audience. That's all they care about. They don't actually care about the things they claim to. So, yeah, it's such a disappointment that is the way it is. But, guys, let me know in the comment section, what do you think of this whole fiasco with Silverstone and the tickets? And let Silverstone, if you are, thinking of going to the British Grand Prix next year, or if you're trying to get tickets, let me know in the comment section, what your experience has been trying to get tickets. But also, make sure to let Silverstone on Twitter know your thoughts. I'm not saying harass them or, send nasty shit to them, but do let them know that, the poor experience, if you have had a poor experience that you've had, because we cannot allow tracks to get away with this, because this is absolutely shocking behaviour we have seen from Silverstone. And there you go, guys. That is that third and final topic done. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's have a look, see what you guys have to say in the chat in regards to this quick. All James Squibs, are these secondary market ticket sales? No, those ticket that was from the Silverstone website. That wasn't from StubHub or Ticketmaster or anything like that. Prank says, no, the organisers are determining supply and demand every 90 seconds. Yeah. The thing is, though, they say they're determining it, but what they're basically trying to do is see how much they can charge and get away with, the rise in prices. They're trying to get away with charging as much as they can, ripping you off for as much as you can. In doing that. And yeah, Prank says they're going to try this more. Absolutely. It's totally not. Daniel says £389, $448 just to get in. That's a hard pass. Yeah, that's. I mean, I was thinking of going to the British Grand Prix. Maybe not the whole Grand Prix next year, but I was thinking of maybe going to like Friday and Saturday, and then coming back to where I live on Sunday to cover it for you guys on stream. The race watch along. I mean, maybe I'll go to Friday practice next year, but there's absolutely no chance I'm going to Saturday or Sunday because I like having money in my account. Paul James Squibs. It's easy to argue all the money goes back into the circuit / investment, and yet you have 90% of the profits submitted or subsumed in administration. Simon says F1 rights holders demand somewhere between 25 million euros and 60 million per circuit holder F1 race. Paul James Squibb says, I think this happened with football once it started to become popular. No more ordinary folks holding season tickets for Man United, etc. Prawn sandwiches and complimentary business events, etc. Yeah. Josiah says, let them know they're assholes without calling them assholes, basically, yeah. And it's totally not. Daniel says it's the capacity is 150,000. Do the numbers totally a cash grab. It's the equivalent, Rooks says, of seeing a tin of beans on the shelf for 75p and being 145 at the till. One person did say on Twitter that I should have said in that actual topic I did, because obviously I recorded it because I'm going to upload that as a video. One something I saw on Twitter that someone said, which was really fucking good analogy, was it's like if you charged, I don't know, £1 for milk, and then a load of people bought it, say early in the morning, as soon as the store opened, and then suddenly you put the price up to like, I don't know, £2.50. It's basically like that. Yeah, and if that, let's be honest, if we had dynamic pricing in real life, there would literally be civil war on the streets. We all know that would happen because, it just wouldn't work in actual real life. But because it's, an event and you don't have to pay for it, you don't have to go, when obviously food and milk, water, whatever you have to have those things. What do you call it? They wouldn't be able to get away with it in that setting. Paul James Squibb says it becomes part of a wealthy American business person's executive company travel. Same thing happened with football/soccer. Yeah, I mean, I don't think going to a Formula One race should be like pennies. I don't think people should like, in regards to, if I was looking at it from Silverstone's point of view, I don't think it should be like them charging like £200 to £300 less for tickets. I'm not that mental, but be reasonable, especially with the times we're living in. But obviously Silverstone, not reasonable at all. But let me just see if there's anything else I can read out. No, I don't think so. I think, guys, I've been live for what, an hour and 45 minutes. I think I'm going to bring the stream to an end because I've pretty much done all I've wanted to do. So yeah, thank you guys for coming along for this stream. Been great to have you here. And yeah, those 3 topics I've done tonight, those will all be uploaded as separate videos. I think the Silverstone one I'm going to upload first. The reason is because that's more important for me, and I want to get it out there and get, ears and eyes on it. So I'm going to upload that first, probably on Tuesday, and then Thursday or Friday I'll probably upload the Sergio Perez topic about has he been unfairly treated, and then probably the week after I'll upload the Red Bull versus Ferrari car development thing the week after. And remember, next Sunday I will be live yet again at either 3 or 4 p.m. UK time. I haven't decided yet. I'll let you guys know probably next Saturday, the day before, as to what time I'll be going live officially. I'll be going live, next Sunday with a similar stream, going through some topics in the world of Formula 1. And what we'll be doing is, I won't reveal the main topic of the stream, but the other stuff we'll be doing is going through the news that we've had in the last, week or 2 weeks. It'll be at that point in Formula 1, in the obviously gap between the Italian and Singapore Grand Prix. So make sure to join me for that next Sunday afternoon, and I'll hopefully see you guys for that. But just want to say again, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And for watching right now, if you have not already, don't forget to smash that like button. And as well, don't forget to check out my latest videos on the channel. Make sure to go and do that as well. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ShazHD5. Join our Discord server, link below in the description to join our great community here. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today's stream. Again, thank you guys for coming along. And until my next stream next Sunday, it has been me, ShazHD. Goodbye.